Hello, and welcome back to the segment of God is Greater Than Religion. Todd is now going to share with us chapter 15. This one is a very interesting one. We kind of get this topic a lot in our conversations with people. And the chapter topic is, why is there such a division in society at this time?
Yes.
And really that can be applied to any time.
Right.
In history, in our past, anytime you're reading this now or in the future, I believe this information will apply.
Right. And I don't get this question very often because people don't think there's an answer. There is an answer. When you've done the research, as I have, everything starts to make sense. Everything starts falling in line. So this is a very long chapter. So we're just going to do the knowing, and then we'll expand on that.
Okay.
Not the understanding.
Right.
Chapter 15, why is there such a division in society at this time? The answer to this dilemma is quite simple. We are in a new paradigm. So let's break that down real quick.
Right.
Paradigm. So God is not stagnant. God's an energy source, but God does not stay the same all the time.
No, look at nature.
God ebb and flows. So sometimes the vibration's lower, sometimes the vibration's higher. So right here in the understanding part, on December 21st, 2012, the Mayan long calendar came to an end, showing the end of the old paradigm and our ascension into the next. So the vibration of God literally went up.
Right.
That vibration changed. The amount of love and compassion and acceptance went up for some.
Well, and really what creates a paradigm? It is the energy, the vibration, the frequency, the consciousness, the souls, everything plays a part into what creates a certain paradigm that we find ourselves in. And then as conscious creators, when we shift that, then we shift the paradigm.
Right. So God is not stagnant. God is a living thing. All right. So we are in a new paradigm. Hopefully you have read the previous chapters, which you have not, because you haven't brought the book yet.
Yet.
If so, then you know not all souls are the same age or as experienced, and every soul will vibrate at its own frequency. Older souls will vibrate at a higher frequency, and younger souls will vibrate at a lower frequency of fear, judgment, punishment, or love, compassion, and acceptance.
Exactly. Right.
With this new paradigm comes a higher vibration bestowed on this planet by Source or God, however you want to look at it. Older souls with a higher vibration will start progressing toward love and acceptance at a faster rate than younger souls who are not as receptive to this new higher vibration. So you have some groups of people who are saying, wait, we don't need these Confederate generals who enforced slavery and caused all this violence as being, honored. We need those down now. That we don't have things like that in heaven. We don't honor people who brought fear, judgment, and punishment to other human beings.
Right. That's not a frequency or a vibration that we want to continue. So we are going to actively
That's why
shift
after that December 21st, 2012, things started shifting. Black Lives Matter started. Me Too movement started. We started taking down Confederate statues.
Yeah.
All those things started happening because the vibration went up, and people are like waking up and like, wait a second. And the younger souls will try to demonize people that are waking up to this higher vibration and calling them woke. But really they're becoming more conscious and conscientious towards others now. Where they were kind of like, we're all continuing at a block, right? And becoming more conscientious and moving away from the pack.
Well, the innate wisdom of the soul will show where they are, right, by their actions.
Right. Okay,
where are we at?
We as a society are not all progressing as a unified block right now. Older souls are pulling away from the pack as their want to gravitate to this higher consciousness is growing stronger toward love and acceptance.
And away from anger, fear, judgment, and punishment. Exactly.
Right. So think of a race with cars, right? Everybody piles into the turn, right? They all kind of meet up together. That's where we were in the last paradigm.
Right.
And then all of a sudden, the front of the cars start to take off, and the other cars are still back in the turn.
Right.
Right. That's what it's doing right now. The older the soul, they're waking up towards compassion for all, acceptance, fighting for the rights of all humans, not fighting for the rights of just white heterosexual Christian males.
Or wherever they find themselves in.
Right, exactly. So that's why it's funny, because you see, we see people that are Hispanic and they're fighting against Hispanics because they are not the vibration. They're like, wouldn't you fight for your own race, your own ethnicity? And they still aren't, because they're younger souls.
Well, racism exists in all ethnicities and all backgrounds.
Even towards their own ethnicity. So I've met people who are like, no, they should allow any people across the border. And then other people that are white are saying, no, we should allow them. They're just trying here to create a better environment for themselves and their children, which Christians are supposed to be about children, but sometimes they use fear instead of the love of somebody that's brown. So...
Well, and again, it's not all about the age of our bodies, the genders, the colors, the ethnic backgrounds. It's about the age of the soul and the soul's development, because there are even people in the African American community who are racist against other African Americans.
Right.
Or they are, what is it called if you're like not judging the person because of the color of their skin, but because of their actions.
Yes.
But then they group all of those actions with all African American people. Do you know what I mean?
Stereotype.
So it's, I guess they stereotype.
Right.
And so they say, well, I'm an African American male or woman, but I'm different. I act different. And so that's why I don't identify with my race, because they generalize.
Like right.
So are they still a racist soul against but then they just happen to be incarnated as an African American with the way that their skin looks?
Right.
Or
that's the funny thing is I've seen African Americans who are anti-African American.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
And a lot of times those people that were anti-African American were white. That's why they're still anti. They're still.
That's what I thought.
They're still having to. The first time so if you're like hardcore racist and you're just you're wearing the white hood and everything, right? The first time you become African American, it may not stick. You still may not like African, but the second, third, by the fourth time, maybe you'll be like, just join it on in. You know what I'm saying?
Depending on how your soul develops.
Same with LGBTQ.
The
first time your soul switches its gender, it may not gravitate towards it, because the soul dictates to the vessel. The vessel does not dictate to the soul. So if you're a man a bunch of times, you go into a female body, you may not have any traits that are female. You might, if you're a man 17 times in a row, then you're going to identify still as a male and have male traits, even though you're in a female body. So the soul carries essence of where you've been to where you are now.
Because of that development, because where it's at. Man, I had something really good I was going to say about the understanding part. No. We talk about so many great things, and we always, have all these little segues. But in 2012, we were talking about the paradigm shifting and everything. I don't know. There was something really profound I was going to say.
That was supposed to be the end of the world, right? So end of the long count, right? It was end of that paradigm.
Yeah.
End of that paradigm, and we move from different energies. Like I said, God raises and lowers the vibration of this planet. Seems like very, very seldom, but really it's quite often. And we've gone through lots of different cycles on this planet. The vibration raised, and people started gravitating towards love and acceptance, and things that were okay before aren't okay now.
Exactly.
And it's natural. And the younger souls that are like, you're woke and you're bad and all that stuff, right? Eventually, 10 more years, 15 more years of this higher, and the vibration is still raising. Yeah. Right? It's still raising. As we get farther into this vibration, they'll start to move over to love and acceptance for all, instead of being in this, you seem different. You're woke now and I don't like it.
Gosh.
Right? But realistically, they're waking up to God's higher vibration.
Yeah. It's funny because as I've developed on my spiritual journey and my soul has developed, I have changed so many times. I've gone through a death and rebirth cycle, so many times I haven't had that traditional NDE where I, died and came back, but I shifted my consciousness and I changed my vibration so much, and I have been able to shift the conditions of my environment, because when you change and you think better and you live better and you have better habits habits and you're in a better or elevated frequency and vibration, now you're attracting better things for yourself.
Right.
You know,
Right.
you're attracting more like-minded, and you know, like attracts like. So the vibration that we are in, we will attract more of that in our 3D reality. In 2012, though, it's funny because I really didn't realize that the paradigm was shifting at that time, but I was going through my shift. You were, as so many souls. I mean, the whole collective has gone through a paradigm shift, but the difference is some older souls are able to recognize that and understand that because they're more conscious and aware of it.
Right.
And I declared that I told myself, I said, I am on the fast track to growth in this lifetime.
Yes.
I didn't understand fully all the things that I knew. It's like I had a lot of this knowing. But then with you, your information brought me to that understanding. And then now looking back with the power of hindsight, I'm like, wow, now I can see how my life has changed so much in the last 12 years.
Right. 12 years. And
Since that paradigm.
That's the funny thing is, my journey started in 2013. Your journey started in 2013. And our one of our co-hosts, Robert from House of Frog, his journey started in 2013.
Right.
So it was like once that thing ended, we all the older souls started a new paradigm, started new trajectories for their lives.
So going back to why is there such a division in society at this time? Yes, there's a division. But if we also look at the silver lining, what has it done? It has brought the older souls together, the younger souls together, because like attracts like. You cannot escape vibration. Right. You cannot.
Right. And that's one of the things is as we go farther and farther into this paradigm, into this higher vibration, the old energy, the people, the younger souls are going to be kicking and screaming and biting and fighting to try to keep things the way they were. No, we want Confederates. We want all these horrible things to still continue. We want
the younger souls.
The younger souls want this. And not only that, they'll throw shame on the people that are awakening. And eventually that'll stop. But it may take time. It may take 20, 30 years. Who knows?
And maybe not.
Right.
And maybe not, because the more souls that consciously shift and understand and change their ways of being, change their thoughts, change their whole existence. And yes, part of that is meditating, because in meditation it's that self-reflection time. So it's not like we're meditating to forget all about the cares of the world and of myself and all is well and I am good. Well, yeah, you know, that's part of it, but it's that spiritual practice so that we stay elevated, so that we think better, we feel better, so that way we can show up better for ourselves and for life. Right. You know?
And there's people down in Florida that are making anti-woke laws, right? These people, it's just, you have an idea of acceptance and compassion towards others and it scares them. They don't like that. We liked it where, no, if you are LGBTQ, you're bad, but these people are saying you're good. It's like, they are good. They are good. They're just souls that just switch gender. Exactly. That's all it is. And when people start realizing that it's just a natural process and that being woke isn't evil, and they'll try to spin it that it is, right? But it's not. You're waking up to God's energy, God's love. Just like it is on the other side of the veil. Yeah. So God, that's all that exists is love. And we're trying to recreate heaven here. As long as we have judgments and fears against others, predetermined, prejudice, prejudged fears, then heaven can't happen. Heaven and that new level of enlightenment can't happen without that being removed.
Well, and there is a passage in here. You talk about, the teachings of the Bible. And, here you put, Jesus taught us to give freely, while the Old Testament taught us eye for an eye. And then you also talk about you cannot find enlightenment by reading about enlightenment. Just as a driver will eventually stop reading the DMV handbook because they have developed a basis of understanding that they can rely on.
Yes.
And so that's what we're doing here. We are doing our part. My favorite quote. start where you are, use what you have and do what you can. We have already started where we are. We're doing what we can and we're using what we have.
Right.
The information, the technology, the avenues to reach people. And so I really ask you, if you're watching this or listening to this and you have this book, go to that understanding and then apply that understanding.
Right. And what I always say is knowing is half the battle.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
Knowing is half the battle.
Because then you know what you're doing.
We are trying to start a movement of acceptance.
Yeah.
A movement of acceptance.
Altruistic.
Altruistic. If you can understand why the LGBTQ community exists, how it exists, right? And it's a natural process, you'll have less judgment. If you realize if you treat immigrants with disdain, your soul will go there to learn through firsthand knowledge of the pain. You might pull
That
back.
is what karma
You might
is.
pull back and say, wait a second, maybe we should give them a little bit more kindness, a little bit more leeway because that is a soul inside that person. It walks, it talks, it moves. It's a soul in there. And that experience goes to God. So you want to put kids in cages, you're putting God in a cage.
Right, exactly.
That experience goes to God. When people start realizing that, they start treating each other a little bit better the way it's supposed to be for this paradigm.
Exactly. Well, thank you so much for sharing about your book. Thank you so much for sharing your knowledge, your wisdom, your understanding so that not only myself, but everybody that listens to us, that supports us, that buys this book or, is gifted this book or gets the digital copy, whatever, we're doing our part. And just like you said, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. And part of Augmented Teachings is overcoming judgment one soul at a time.
One soul at a time.
And truly, that really does start with us. So may you always have love and laughter in your heart and keep moving forward. Namaste.
Thank you.